All right, let's take a look at some different comping ideas that we can use on a blues progression. This is really important because in the context of a gig, over the course of a night, you might play several blues songs. So it's a good idea to have a lot of different approaches, a lot of different things in your vocabulary to use. So, to prevent the music from becoming stale or every tune sounding the same. So with comping, one thing that we can do is just start off real slow, like start off in first gear and comp with a real sparse approach rhythmically and harmonically. Now, when I think of blues, I always think of Grant Green. That's just kind of where I default to and what he would play. And a lot of times when he would comp on blues and in any song, basically, he would use these very sparse, minimalistic guide tone chord voicings. And a lot of times, he would play in the organ trio, and there's a lot happening with the organist. The organist is playing the bass and comping and soloing all at the same time, soloing in big chords. So it's really important to kind of stay out of their way. So guide tones work really well in that case, but they'll work in any setting. Grant would play these in a trio setting as well as quartet setting with the piano. They're really effective. And then another thing that we can do is set them on lower strings. So we'll take these guide tones, voicings, and we'll set them on the A and D strings. And so if we just take a look at the third and the seventh of each chord, we're going to start off with F7. And if we look at the guide tones, we're going to play an E flat on the A string, and then the A, which is the third, right above that. So it may seem a little strange to think of this as an F7, but in fact, there it is. In fact, if you look at at an F7 voicing, you probably know, if you stripped away all of the other notes, you'd have E flat and A. There it is. So we're taking only those two notes, sometimes called a shell voicing, and we're going to fatten up the sound a little bit, make it sound really nice and earthy, and play it on the lower strings. So we're going to place them right there. And then when you'll find that just by playing these two notes, they move really smoothly between chords. So when we go to the B flat 7 chord, you just move it down a half step, and now the guide tones flip flop. So this is the third of B flat, and that's a flat 7. Then the 5 chord, C7 would be that, 4. That's really nice. It's just a nice earthy sound, but it stays out of everybody's way. And a lot of times, Grant would play a rhythm where he was leaving out. He was dropping the beat 2. So a nice little pattern emerges like this. So let's check out the example. In time, it's a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. And then, to take it to the 4 chord there, you can add some different rhythms in there. So for C minor 7, we have this, F7, and then back to B flat. So play the whole thing one more time again. 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat, F, C minor, F, B flat. So, less is more, as we've heard that phrase over and over again, and this is definitely an example of less is more. So that's something cool to check out. Another thing that you can do comping for blues is not even play chords, but in fact you can create kind of a riff or a lick in the background in the same way that horns do. So for example, if there was a quintet, jazz messengers come to mind. If you're playing a blues idea, maybe the trumpet player and the saxophone would do a line in unison or in octaves. And it's just kind of a background line that really works well for blues. So you don't even have to play chords. You can just kind of do a little line. It's almost kind of a shout vibe that's created by that. So what's happening in the etude, you'll see in the second chorus, we're just playing one line over and over again, and we're just massaging the notes a little bit to fit the changes. So here's the essential riff. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just a simple lick that you might play in a solo or something, but it makes a great background line because it has the feeling of the blues, it's working with the changes, it's staying out of everybody's way. So maybe, for example, if you were playing with a pianist and the pianist is playing all these chords, that's a great way to play something and contribute to the sound, but without stepping on any toes or getting in the way of the harmony or anything. Usually when two people are playing these big complex chords, it just gets to be a mess harmonically. So just take a different approach and play a line. So to create the illusion of two horns playing, you can play this in octaves. That's what I like to do a lot. You could just play a single note line, but octaves really strengthens the sound quite a bit. So I'm going to take that same riff and just massage a couple of the notes, actually just one note to make it work for the 4 chord. So for the first, there's 3 phrases that follow the blues progression. For the first phrase, I'm going and then lay out for a little bit. Then for the second phrase, I'm going to play an A flat because that would fit with the B flat 7 chord. So now for the second time, I'm going to go. And then for the last 4, I'm going to land back on the A natural because that note won't clash with the G minor 7 chord that's being played. So the whole thing together would be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, next part. 2, 3, 4, last part. Okay? Now you could play the flat 3 all the way through. You could do this for the whole thing. It's just going to get crunchy, which sometimes that's what you want, but it's not always going to fit in terms of the notes. All right, so the last comping concept that we're going to check out is a variation on that. And that, again, instead of just randomly coming up with chords for each change, we're going to come up with a repeating theme or a repeating line. This time we're going to use a chord voicing. So again, what I like to think about with chord voicings is harmonizing the top note. So here's the line that we're going to use. It starts on the beat 2, so it's 1. And so the way I'm thinking of that line is 1, 2. Okay, so just imagine one horn player playing that over and over again, just like we did in our second example with octaves. But if you were listening to a big band, that one line, like the Count Basie Orchestra, for example, or in Duke Ellington's band, that might be harmonized in a really cool way. So what we're going to do is harmonize that with a static voicing. And in the blues, a 13 voicing always works really nice. So again, we don't worry about every note fitting perfectly into the chord. It's just a sound. So for the F, we're going to harmonize that with an F13 underneath it, which is the same as this, just on a different string set. And then we're going to take that same 13th voicing and just apply it to every note. So we'll harmonize that with, and that's it. So that's sometimes called constant structure, but it really works with blues. It doesn't matter if those notes that are dissonant create the vibe that creates that beautiful bassy sound. So we have this 1, 2. Okay, and then we're going to do 3 of those, just like we did with the octave riff. So when we hit the B flat chord, instead of playing the F chord, because that just wouldn't sound right, we'll just massage it a little bit to play the B flat chord. So we still have the F as the top voice, but the other notes create a B flat chord. But we'll keep the rest of our riff the same. So we've got this, and then resolve to an F. And then for the third phrase, we're going to actually keep an F at the top, because that's our riff, but we'll harmonize it with the notes in the G minor 7 chord. And then return to the F7. So the whole thing in time would be like this. 1, 2, ready, and 1. 2, 3, 4. Going to the B flat, ready, and 1. 2, 3, 4. Going to the G minor this time, ready, and 1. So that's, again, a nice alternative to just randomly comping along the changes. You're just really creating this strong sound and kind of creating the illusion of a big band, which is really effective if you're playing in a small group setting. You can get a lot of colors out of those voicings. So hope you enjoy working with those.